Even after the leader of the free world contracted coronavirus, wearing a mask at the White House remains optional. Chief of Staff Mark Meadows exercised that apparent right on Friday in front of reporters.
Why aren't you wearing a mask right now?
Yeah, so I've obviously been tested. We're hopefully more than 6 feet away, and if there's any concern there from a guidance standpoint, we have protocols in place.
Meanwhile, a Trump campaign senior advisor yesterday mocked Joe Biden's precautionary mask wearing.
With regard to Joe Biden, I think too often he's used the mask as a prop. Mask is very important, but even if he could be 20, 30 feet away from the nearest person and still have the mask on, that's not going to change anything that's out there. But also we've seen with Joe Biden, I mean, we can't all just stay in our basement for the rest of our lives.
Joining me now, infectious diseases physician and medical director of the Special Pathogens Unit at the Boston University School of Medicine, Dr. Nahid Bhadelia. She is an NBC News and MSNBC medical contributor. Doctor, thank you so much for getting up early with us, because I think there are so many questions that have come out of what we learned and didn't learn over the weekend. Let's start with this masks optional situation. I think for many Americans, certainly who work at big companies, that's not what's going on. Should the White House implement a mask policy, in your opinion?
Yeah, Casey, I think we only have to look so far as most workplaces in the country have done this, partly because CDC guidance is that indoors it is much harder to keep that distance when you're in these closed spaces, and then the ventilation is not as good. And so I would definitely recommend that. And you only have to look as far as what happened this Saturday. You know, we've had a White House that's been heavily reliant on testing, which is an important part of this. The testing helped them quickly pick up people who were infected, but because others around them were not wearing these masks and were not observing the physical distance, the presence of a person amongst them who might have been infected then led to this cluster of a lot of other people becoming infected. And so that itself should sort of convince the White House to take this next step.
So, Doctor, we seem to get a lot of contradictory information over the weekend about just what is going on with the president's health. They, on the one hand, are trying to, reassure us, say, well, he could be discharged as soon as today. But on the other hand, they started him on a steroid that apparently, and I would love it if you could walk us through what it means to you that they started him on that drug, because I mean, my understanding was that was for cases that were pretty serious. How do you read what we know and what we don't know based on what the president's doctors are telling us?
Casey, there's been a lot of head scratching actually as of yesterday. So personally, myself, when I heard yesterday that they had started him on steroids, I was more concerned about the severity of this case than I was on Friday or Saturday. So just to sort of step back and talk about how COVID works, there are sort of two large phases to this. Once you become infected, the virus does damage. And then the immune system revs up because of its response to the virus, and sometimes can have a maladaptive response to it. And when it does that, it's damaging the body itself. So the types of drugs the medications that the president received on Friday, the Regeneron antibodies, as well as the remdesivir, those are aimed at trying to bring the virus down. What they then are worried about is that if they can keep the virus down, hopefully the immune system won't rev up. The trouble with something like dexamethasone, the steroid, is that we generally give it in patients who we're seeing enter that second phase, who might be having that maladaptive immune response. And we can't rush that. We don't give that to patients early. We don't say, out of abundance of caution, let's just give it to someone who might have a mild case, because giving a steroid is like a blunt instrument. You're depressing the good immune response and the bad immune response at the same time. And so that balance that Dr. Conley talked about, they had to think about this. They had to weigh the benefits and the risks, and they decided to go in the favor of giving steroids, which means that they were concerned that his case was at least moderately severe. And so his care is different than the regular, public's. The president goes back to a medical unit at the White House, but generally, a patient that I had in that condition, I wouldn't feel comfortable discharging them today.
All right, Dr. Nahid Bhadelia, thank you very much. We're going to be relying on your expert analysis and information primarily throughout all of this. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.